Fantasy football season is finally here. Drafts are getting underway, and there is no better time to dive in and make sure you know what to expect when you're on the clock. In this series, we're looking at mock drafts with a different strategy for every single show. No matter what format you're drafting in, there'll be a video to help you get ready. Today, we're testing out the zero RB approach in single QB leagues. Does it still work? That's the big question. I'm Tom Strachan, writer, podcast host for Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Sanctuary, though, where we have a non-stop stream of fantasy football content for you throughout this month. One simple goal: to help you win big in 2025. We're going to use the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard to mock draft. It's insanely customizable. You can sync your leagues to it, automatically copy your settings, and then it'll adjust rankings for that. You can choose which expert rankings you want to see, the insights you want to see, including mine. They're part of the expert consensus rankings for over 100 people from across the industry. Last year, I finished number 2 overall in the sleeper competition. Feeling pretty good about my chances for this year. There's no waiting around for other people, nobody taking 6 kickers. Instead, we can mock against the Draft Wizard, get feedback from top experts straight away. Check out the link in the description down below to start your own mocks right now. So this draft, like I mentioned, we're going to be going single quarterback. We use for 2025 season, not dynasty season. Let's push out to the back burner. We're going to go half PPR for this one. Want to stay with Snake? That's how most people are drafting their teams. 12 teams. We'll let the Wizard randomize and pick for us, and we'll go with the 6th pick overall. No pick clock for this one. Now, the settings I'm using fairly standard. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex, 1 kicker, 1 defense, and then 6 bench spots. So 15 rounds in total. Expert rankings, you can choose to go with all experts or just Fantasy Pros experts. I'll keep it on all experts so you get a wider idea for this video. And we're going to keep it with the composite ADP, but you could choose just to use Sleeper, Yahoo Sports, etc., or Best Ball if you wanted to. If you want to go into a draft and say that my league heavily overvalues running backs, well, you can tweak that. You can make it fully customizable. So let's dive in. And if you haven't done many drafts yet, this is pretty normal. Jamar Chase at 101, and then Saquon Barkley at 102, CeeDee Lamb 103, Bijan Robinson at 104, and then Justin Jefferson. No surprises here. Depending on how your league goes, you might see things change a little bit. We're going to go with 0B in this draft, though, and see how it shakes out. The middle of the draft is quite a fun place for it. And I'm going to go with Puka Nacua ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I do have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked ahead of Puka Nacua in my rankings, but we want to test things out. We want to see how different strategies are working at this time of year. Last year was atrocious for 0RB. It was one of the worst years for 0RB that we've had in the last decade. But the year before that, it was a tactic that helped people win millions of dollars across various redraft and best ball contests. So I don't want to be burned too much by last year, but I'm not going to go back to it and see how it works this year. So we took Puka Nacua at the 106. I really like Puka Nacua this year. The only downside with Puka Nacua has been that he hasn't been able to score enough touchdowns. He's got 9 across 2 seasons. But I think that having Devontae Adams there is really going to help him. Last year, Cooper Kupp absolutely cooked. I think it just kind of talked to the fact that Nacua wasn't getting any real help. But Devontae Adams still looked pretty damn good last year at times, and I think that he's really going to make it hard for defenses to key in on Puka Nacua. When the draft comes back around, Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Malik Neighbors, Amon Ra, Nico Collins, Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry, Drake London, Brian Thomas, Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, and Brock Bowers have all got. I was kind of hoping that Brock Bowers would make it to me, but that's neither here nor there. Let's move on. And we'll take A.J. Brown. Like A.J. Brown in the middle of the second round feels like a completely fine value. Yes, there's a few doubts about Jalen Hurts' ceiling. Yes, you can kind of bet on a number of things being tricky for A.J. Brown. But one of the easiest narratives I kind of can let myself be talked into is the idea that Saquon Barkley might not be as efficient this year. That Jalen Hurts might not score 15 tush pushes again this year. A.J. Brown might not get tackled or step out of bounds at the 1-yard line as often as he did last year. And if that happens, he could be a really strong value this year. Now, in the 3rd round, we've had Trey McBride, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson go off the board. They all would have been targets for me. Because in the 0RB build, it's not just about fading the running back position early on. It's also about creating a super team across the board. And that means taking the elite quarterbacks or the elite tight ends or both. So with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Trey McBride all gone, the options here come down to Jaden Daniels or George Kittle. And for me, I'm going to lead towards George Kittle. George Kittle last year ran pure on efficiency, but this year I think he can make up for that by volume. Like the Niners have so many issues. Their defense looks set to be one of the worst teams in the league. And I think that that's going to cause them to be quite pass heavy with a bit of a quarterback run before things come back around to us. Jaden Daniels goes, Joe Burrow goes, then Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts would have been fun to stack with AJ Brown, but it is not the end of the world. Instead, we've got a whole bunch of wide receivers here. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton. Now, I'm not against having both Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams on a redraft team, but this is quite a shallow redraft team. So it would mean that two of my first three wide receivers would have the same bye week. It would mean that two of my first three wide receivers sometimes would be eaten into each other's share. I'm more interested in taking team stacks like that on slightly deeper teams, and we'll draft some of those teams as this week, this month goes on, but not on this one. Instead, I'll pivot and take Mike Evans, who I do like. And I think with Chris Godwin banged up, everybody's talking about Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan potentially still having a role. But I think it just further pushes Mike Evans towards having another great year. Now, in zero RB, if we were talking best ball where we're doing 20 rounds, typically I'm looking to round 6 onwards before I take my first running back. Here, this is the kind of area where I want to start looking at the running back. And the top options are DeAndre Swift, Trevion Henderson, Aaron Jones, or RJ Harvey. Now, DeAndre Swift probably gets a good bit of volume, but I'm not in love with him. I find him a really difficult player to get on board with. Trevion Henderson is a fine pick, but look, we've got this kind of nice area where we've also got Caleb Johnson, we've also got RJ Harvey. If we were looking for a rookie running back, then we can possibly push this one more pick, and instead we could take Patrick Mahomes here, or we could take another wide receiver and really make sure that we've got some huge upside. And if I want upside, then give me a guy like Teteroa McMillan. Now, Ted is exactly what Bryce Young needs. He can be a volume monster. He can win inside and outside. And I truly believe that he's going to help unlock Bryce Young and make a massive difference for him. So Trevion Henderson, DeAndre Swift, and Aaron Jones all go. We've got a couple more tight ends off the board, but that's fine. We wouldn't have been double dipping there. Then we've had a bit of a quarterback run. That's fine. There's still plenty of values. So let's take Kyler Murray, get a bit of that dual threat upside. Kyler Murray's been better for fantasy than he has been in real life, but I still feel like there's another level he can get to. When the draft board comes back around, like, look, it's time to start taking some running backs. We are 7 rounds into this and we don't have a single one. There isn't a single other team that waited, past round 3 to take their first running back. And at a certain point, it will become detrimental and running backs will dry up. So let's take Brian Robinson first. Now, Brian Robinson last year was somebody I was quite high on, but he didn't really show much ceiling, and it was quite disappointing to see that. But touchdowns don't tend to be sticky year to year. If he gets into the end zone a bit more this year, that could be helpful. But also, Brian Robinson was just quite a safe player. You know, you're talking like a top 24 to top 36 running back each week. We're going to have to take some swings at the running back position. And Brian Robinson can carry us until some of those players start settling down or until we find somebody really good off waivers. When the draft comes back around, you can see that there's Travis Kelce, Jacoby Myers, Evan Ingram. I'm not interested in any of those. I'm going to take Jaylen Warren instead. Again, this is somebody who should see early season production because reports at a training camp suggest that Caleb is really struggling with pass protection. Now, I like Caleb Johnson, but I think that if you are struggling with pass protection when Aaron Rodgers is involved, it's probably not going to be a quick start for him. Jaylen Warren, the team's never really given him a massive workload, but even if he just got the pass catching work in an Aaron Rodgers offense, that's completely a valuable thing that we want. We saw Breece Hall last year have an absolute boatload of receptions. When Aaron Rodgers was healthy in Green Bay, we constantly saw the running backs there involved in the passing game. So now we've got 2 running backs. We could be a little bit more flexible with what we do next. We've got Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Tyrell McMillan, Kyler Murray, Brian Robinson, and Jalen Warren. The top guys, it's all Travis Kelce, Jacoby Myers, guys who aren't coming off the board anytime too soon. Let's reach down and get Ramondre Stevenson. So now we've got 3 running backs who give us reasonable production early on. Let's say Trevion Henderson struggles for the Patriots, as rookies can do. You know, Trevion Henderson is going to be playing behind a bad offensive line. So instead, let's say now we've got 3 rookies. Now we've got 3 running backs who can carry us for a little bit. Now we want to take some swings. We've only got another 6 picks left overall before we're done here, and we also will need a defense and kicker. I'm going to go Trey Benson. James Conner's been fantastic for the Cardinals, but he himself has said that Trey Benson's going to have a bigger role this year. Trey Benson hasn't really done an awful lot yet, but he was a really good prospect coming into the NFL, and I think that there's potential for him to be one of the best value fantasy picks this year. Next up, we're going to take Isaac Guerendo. If anything happens to CMC, who's only played like 1 full season, in like the last 4 years, then we could have a really, really valuable player on our hands in Isaac Guerendo. So we're in the 12th round now. We've solidified the running back position with Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Benson, and Isaac Guerendo. Yes, that doesn't exactly scream star power, but with Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Tyrell McMillan, Kyler Murray, the rest of our team can be so good that it can bring the running back position along with it. Going over the wide receiver position, it's Rashad Bateman, Luther Burden, Romeo Doubs, Adam Thielen. These aren't guys that we should be particularly worried about. We can take another swing on the wide receiver position before we get out of here. But let's go back to the running back room one more time. Tyler Algier finished 10th in explosive run rate last year, 7th in juke rate. Really should be valued much higher than he is. So now we're into the 13th round. The first couple of defenses are going off the board. Pittsburgh Steelers in round 12, Ravens round 13. Don't be like these teams taking the defense in round 10 or round 9. You give up so much positional value doing that. At the wide receiver position, now I'm going to take Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman, you can still get the over-under on him to be about 525 passing yards. Mike Clay, one of the best projectionists in the business, reckons that he's going to be closer to 700 yards. Bateman had a really nice year last year. We want good players on good teams, and Bateman ticks all those boxes. Final 2 picks, we'll take the Texans. Their defense is going to be feisty every single week. And at kicker, we'll take Will Lutz. I always like taking kickers from the Broncos because they have that benefit of the thinner air up there that tends to help field goals go a little bit further. So the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard has given us a B+ from the consensus grade. You can toggle over to Fantasy Pros Experts to see my good guy, Derek Brown, giving us an A, Pat Fitzmaurice 84, Andrew Erickson 81, and Joe Pisapia 77. I will be having words, Joe. But let's dive into the full analysis because this is my favorite part about this. So the summary has us with the 4th highest score within this league. We'll take that because we're not betting on necessarily this team that we've drafted to be everything. We're going to make aggressive pickups on the waivers. We're going to make aggressive trades because that's what Zero RB is about. In terms of bye weeks, look, we spread things pretty well with only Puka Nacua, Kyler Murray, and Trey Benson being the worst week that we've got. The team would have liked Jalen Waddle at 6.7 and to have pushed quarterback later. I can understand that, but at the point where we did that, we were quite wide receiver heavy. If we go over the team strengths, you can see the running back position is not great for us. That's fine, though, because we are strong at quarterback, we're strong at kicker, we're strong at DST, we're strong in the flex, and we are strong at tight end. Those are all the recipes to give us a really strong Zero RB team. So a B+, yes, I would have liked an A+, but I can live with this. I think that overall, finishing a draft with Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Tet, Kyler Murray, Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Benson, Isaac Guerendo, Tyler Algier, Rashad Bateman, Houston Texans defense, and Will Lutz. That's a fun draft. So that is our 0RB mock draft. Let me know how you're feeling about the strategy for 2025. Were you burned by it in 2024? Is it still viable? What would you have done differently? Which players are you drafting? And after you've done that, go and check out this video from Rich on must draft rookie running backs.